Hello and welcome to episode 680 of the Our Lady of Fatima podcast. It is my pleasure to be with you this evening. My name is Terrence M. Stanton. We are recording on Thursday, October 12th, 2023, in the year of our Lord Jesus Christ. Let us begin with the Thursday prayer to the Most Blessed Virgin Mary to obtain heaven. This, of course, by the great saint and doctor of the Church, Alphonsus Liguori. O Queen of Paradise, who reignest above all the choirs of angels, and who art the nearest of all creatures to God, I, a miserable sinner, salute thee from this valley of tears, and beseech thee to turn thy compassionate eyes towards me. For whichever side they turn, they dispense graces. See, O Mary, in how many dangers I now am, and shall be as long as I live in this world, of losing my soul, of losing heaven and God. In thee, O Lady, I have placed all my hopes. I love thee, and sigh to go soon to see thee, and praise thee in heaven. Ah, Mary, when will be that happy day, on which I shall see myself safe at thy feet, and contemplate my mother, who has done so much for my salvation? When shall I kiss that hand, which has delivered me so many times from hell, and has dispensed me so many graces, when on account of my sins I deserve to be hated and abandoned by all? My Lady, in life I have been very ungrateful to thee, but if I get to heaven, I shall no longer be ungrateful. There I shall love thee as much as I can in every moment for all eternity, and shall make amends for my ingratitude by blessing and thanking thee forever. I thank God with my whole heart, who gives me firm confidence in the blood of Jesus Christ and in thee, and the conviction that thou wilt save me, that thou wilt deliver me from my sins, that thou wilt give me light and strength to execute the divine will, and in fine, that thou wilt lead me to the gate of paradise. Thy servants have hoped for all this, and not one of them was deceived. No, neither shall I be deceived. O Mary, my full confidence is that thou hast to save me. Beseech thy Son Jesus, as I also beseech him, by the merits of his passion, to preserve and always increase this confidence in me, and I shall be saved. Today, friends, we're going to take a look at an article by W. Ignatius Matthews, which was published today as I'm recording this, October 12, 2023, at 1peter5.com, entitled, How to Build a Catholic Town. And it's very important to build community, to build good Catholic communities. The author and historian, Professor Brian McClanahan, says, think locally and act locally. You want to change the world, start by changing yourself, your family, and your town for the better. St. Mary's, Kansas is a small town. This small town may well be the capital of the Catholic English-speaking world, as Kennedy Hall has called it. This town has undergone immense changes in the last 45 years, as Catholics determined to give their children a traditional Catholic upbringing have flocked to the area. The main happening in the town is the work of the Society of St. Pius X, which has an outsized presence in the area. The SSPX priests offer multiple daily masses and recitations of the Divine Office at which the faithful can assist. St. Mary's is a hub with spokes that go in far directions. Within a 5-hour drive of St. Mary's are an FSSP parish 10 miles away, several traditional parishes in the Kansas City area, including an ICKSP oratory. And when we say FSSP, that's the priestly fraternity of St. Peter. ICKSP is Institute of Christ the King Sovereign Priest oratory, and an SSPX oratory. Of course, SSPX is the Society of St. Pius X, about an hour and a half away. The FSSPs, Our Lady of Guadalupe Seminary, about 2.5 hours away. Our Lady of Clear Creek Abbey, 5 hours away. St. Mary's is the oldest and the largest of all these listed. There are an estimated 5,000 souls that attend Mass in the Tridentine Rite in St. Mary's every Sunday. In both religious and secular media, the town made headlines as its enormous church, the Church of the Immaculata, was consecrated according to the traditional Catholic rite of consecration for a church. In early 2020, The Atlantic described St. Mary's as an example of the Catholic withdrawal experiment. This experiment, or Benedict option, is no stranger to being the subject of debate, especially in devoutly religious circles. However, in St. Mary's, you do not find a cult-like atmosphere or even an intentional community. The people of St. Mary's engage with the world like people in a town of similar size. The church community allows the Flint Hills Shakespeare Festival to use their land every year for what has become a spectacle that draws people from all over. In 1978, when Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre acquired St. Mary's, there was no traditional Catholic community as there is today. Although the buildings had been empty for over a decade, Archbishop Lefebvre could not help but try to save such a storied place. The buildings were formerly home to a Jesuit mission for the Potawatomi Indians. The mission then became a Catholic school from which Charles Comiskey, owner of the Chicago White Sox, graduated. Finally, the space was used by the Jesuits as a seminary, where their seminarians completed their final years of study, which closed in the post-Vatican II years as many dioceses and religious orders brought their priestly formation closer to urban areas. No fewer than 1,000 priests were ordained in the original Church of the Immaculata, which tragically burned down shortly after the property was bought by the SSPX. Seeing the way the culture was going and the relative rarity of the traditional Latin Mass at the time, many families moved to St. Mary's, where the traditional Latin Mass was offered every day. Already having the physical plant of an educational institution in the former seminary, the SSPX opened a school in St. Mary's, which was one of the only Catholic schools in the country that still offered its students the Catholic education their parents had received. Today, the SSPX operates 22 schools in the USA. However, unique to St. Mary's is that it is one of 2 traditional Catholic colleges in the USA. St. Mary's had offered an Associates of Arts degree for several years until the fall semester of 2022, when college began offering a Bachelor of Arts or BA degree. The question many traditional Catholics might be asking themselves is, what would it take to build up a community like this where I live? After all, St. Mary's is a small town, and the community that is there now has only been there for 45 years. Yet, in 45 years, St. Mary's has grown more than any other traditional Catholic community in the same time period. The simple answer is that any community can grow like this if it offers what St. Mary's offers. Finally, there is generosity. The community started with a chapel, which occupied the former seminary's refectory after the original church burned down, and several buildings that are in use today for the academy and college. Starting with those resources gave the community a head start, but it still required a lot of generosity and volunteers to get them into usable condition after being left dormant for over a decade. The generosity of the people of St. Mary's has been seen in a unique way as they sought to rebuild their aforementioned church. Rebuilding the church ended up taking about 40 years. Although it was always a goal of the community to rebuild the Immaculata Church that alumni of the Jesuit-run school originally built from their own generosity, the need to expand the classrooms and other academic space at the growing academy always took precedence over building a new church. Nonetheless, the donations continued to pour in. Eventually, with the growth and generosity of the community, the need could not be ignored. The renovated refectory, known as Assumption Chapel since it became the site for liturgies after the original church burned down, held 570 people. Even with the priests of St. Mary's offering 7 Sunday Masses, this was not enough. Sundays at St. Mary's became quite chaotic. Eventually, some Sunday Masses were held in the less decorous but larger school auditorium. In 2019, it was announced that the church project was moving forward. A fundraising effort was launched to fund the remaining costs for construction of the new church. The estimated cost was $30 million, of which $15 million had already been raised. The project was not immune to the virus hoax. It actually says coronavirus pandemic, but I call it the virus hoax, and we'll use that phrase going forward, and its resultant financial consequences. While groundbreaking still took place at the height of the virus hoax in June 2020, the cost increased to $43 million. The fundraising and construction continued undeterred. Donations from all over the world came in. More locally, employees of the academy offered to decrease their salaries so that more money could be used for the project. The end result was that on May 3rd, 2023, His Excellency Bernard Fillet consecrated the Church of the Immaculata. which, seating 1,550 and being the length of a football field, is the largest church ever built for or used regularly by the Society of St. Pius X. As one can infer from above, in order to replicate the success and growth of St. Mary's, a number of factors need to fall into place. There has to be buildings enough for a school. There have to be buildings enough for a school. A church. There has to be a way for a father to provide for their families. But these things don't matter if the community is not generous. To boil it down further, God's providence and our virtue is required. St. Mary's has been blessed with large volumes of both. If you think your community lacks one of those two, remember these things. 1, St. Mary's original church burned down and they made it work nonetheless. 2, you can pray. Prayer will increase your virtue and hopefully help those around you. This is the foundation of any Catholic community. So don't think that just because the church and the world have been going in the wrong direction for the last 60 or 70 years or however long you want to put a timestamp on it. The Lord is always at work. The Blessed Mother is always interceding for us, and St. Joseph, and St. Alphonsus Liguori, and St. Padre Pio, and all the angels and saints. They're all pulling for you. They're all helping with their intercession. Don't let their prayers go to waste. Don't lose hope. It starts with the person looking back at you in the mirror every morning when you wake up. It starts with good Catholics getting together, getting married, forming holy families. From that, you get holy vocations to the priesthood and religious life. And you build up holy communities, getting together with like-minded people and building a good, solid Catholic community, just like they do in St. Mary's, Kansas. It's not impossible. With God, all things are possible. Let's conclude, friends, by mentioning Helping Autism through Learning and Outreach, available on the web at halo-soma.org. Also, please tune in to episodes 277 and 548 of Our Lady's podcast, where the topic is RPM, an acronym for Rapid Prompting Method, a system of communication for non-speakers. Before my niece was about 8 years old, we didn't even know her favorite color. Now we know that she's a comprehensive genius thanks to RPM. What RPM does is take non-speakers out of the prison of silence that they're in and put them into the world of open communication where they belong. Communication is a human right. Brielle is very skilled when it comes to math. She's a great poet. She composes music. She knows foreign languages. We know all of that because of her hard work and her family's and God's grace working through RPM. Sign language was not accepted at first, but it gradually gained widespread acceptance because of its efficacy. The same is going to be true of RPM, and we need your help to spread the message. If you don't know a non-speaker, you probably will at some point in your life. So that website and those episodes are there for you to use and to get into the hands of family and friends who may have non-speakers that they care for. This is a game changer, a lifesaver, whatever other term you want to use to describe it for the non-speaking community. Thank you so much for listening to the Our Lady of Fatima podcast. Please tune in again tomorrow. Goodbye, and God love you.